So a while back, I started this Best and Worst series as a way of reviewing whole movie franchises without having to review each movie in an individual video. The first one I did was the Best and Worst of X-Men. It was also the first video that I actually used a proper mic for, and long story short, I was pretty proud of it. However, 20th Century Fox, being the upstanding company that it is, blocked it worldwide so no one can watch it. And rather than disputing the claim and fighting back, because personally I don't really feel like my channel's in a proper position to go up against a major company and studio, I thought I'd make a redo of that video and put it up. So Fox, if you're watching this, which you actually might be, please don't be jerks about this. It's fair use and we both know it. Also, spoilers ahead for all of these films. I've put the times of the films in the description, so you can skip around as you please. Alright, this is probably not a great idea, but regardless, let's get into it. So first up, X-Men from 2000. This movie really changed and helped shape the superhero movie genre when it came out. This helped make superhero movies more relatable and also mean something. This showed superheroes as more flawed than previous superhero movies, and it was an actual allegory for stuff in the real world. And even besides that, it's also just a pretty great film. Firstly, the casting and characters. I probably shouldn't stick to a definite statement like this, but I don't think there's ever been a superhero movie with better casting. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Patrick Stewart as Professor X, Ian McKellen as Magneto. I mean, come on. These roles are perfectly cast. Even smaller roles in supporting characters, the casting is still pretty fantastic. And seeing these characters on screen and interacting with each other, that's what carries this film. It's so much fun. The writing is great here, the film has an interesting plot and is well paced. It's just a really well made, very fun to watch superhero film. There's not that much I have to say about it, it's just a very fun, at times kinda cheesy watch. If I had to nitpick some things, some of the action isn't great. There is some really awesome stuff here, but there's also some pretty mediocre stuff. Same with some of the special effects. A lot are great, especially for the time, but some of them just don't really hold up. So on the whole, X-Men is a really fun, solid film. It does a really good job of setting up a world and franchise, while also telling an interesting story with fantastic, well-cast characters. I know I've kept this brief, but I just don't have a ton to say about this except go watch it. I'll give X-Men a 9 out of 10. So after the success of the first X-Men film, a sequel was promptly made and released 3 years later. And yeah, it's pretty fantastic. It does everything the first film did well, and improves on the few things that weren't that great. Firstly about this film, can I just say, the X2 theme, which now has kind of become the standard X-Men movie theme, is absolutely amazing. One of my favorite superhero movie themes, if not just movie themes as a whole. All of the returning characters are great again, and those characters evolve and change. There are interesting, new character conflicts these heroes have to deal with, and that's what sequels should do with their characters. Also, the new characters they introduce here absolutely hold up to the others. They're the new villains, with William Stryker, Lady Deathstrike, and I guess kind of Jason Stryker. All of them are really good, and all that stuff with Jason getting in Professor X's head just creeps me out. Nightcrawler is introduced here, and he's fantastic. That opening action scene is spectacular. And on that note, this film improves on the action and special effects of the first. There are some super awesome visuals and some really creative action scenes, specifically the Lady Deathstrike versus Wolverine fight. Tonally, this film is darker than the first, but it does still manage to have a lot of fun and comic booky moments in there. As far as what I didn't like, there's still quite a few cheesy moments here, but it doesn't really distract from the film. There's also some very obvious foreshadowing, like Cyclops saying,
"I would never let anything happen to you."
But besides that, there isn't really much I don't like here. This is a really great comic book film, and a really great sequel. As a whole, I enjoy it as much as the first film, if not just a tiny bit more. I'll give X2 X-Men United a 9.2 out of 10. So now things start to get interesting. X-Men The Last Stand is the start of the downfall of the X-Men. It's not terrible, but it's pretty close to terrible. Alright, there are a few solid things in here. Kelsey Grammer being cast as Beast, amazing casting choice. Some of the other cast is still pretty good, although this feels a bit phoned in from a lot of them. Most of the action and visual effects aren't that bad. Some are, but there's some pretty cool stuff here. That final action scene, Magneto lifting the Golden Gate Bridge, the opening fight, which granted is revealed to just be a simulation, but still, not bad. Also, the idea of a mutant cure being introduced is really interesting to me, in theory. And yeah, that's what I liked. Now for the garbage. Firstly, this doesn't feel like the other X-Men films. It feels different, in a bad way, than the other Bryan Singer films. This was directed by Brett Ratner, who's directed one movie that I love, and then all of these. And you can definitely tell it's a different person helming this project. This is way more flashy and over the top, and it has none of the charm of the previous two films. There are way less quiet and awesome moments like the others had, and more just in-your-face, way less cool nonsense. Like, mutant powers aren't shown in a cool way. Mutants just show off their powers for no reason, so we can have some some cool special effects. That's it. The movie is also surprisingly boring. Like, even with dumb superhero films, I'm usually entertained, but this had me checking my watch a few times. It's also very stupid and cheesy, from some really dumb moments to some really dumb lines. Like, so bad they're good lines.
Don't you know who I am? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch! Come on! Grow those back.
The movie also has too much going on. Like, there are way too many subplots. Like, they have the mutant cure, and they have Jean Grey coming back as the Phoenix, and they have Angel and his dad accepting him, and they have the Bobby and Kitty and Rogue love triangle. And it's just too much. It's not balanced at all, and it feels like a scrambled together mess. Also, there are tons of wasted opportunities in this. Cyclops is completely wasted in this. They could have done something with that character, but he's in the film for like 10 minutes. They introduced Juggernaut in this. He's awful. And they really waste the deaths of Professor X and Jean Grey. When Professor X dies, I should be crying. That should be a super impactful moment for the series. But because of the way this film set it up and then executed it, I felt pretty much nothing. And it's the exact same thing for Jean. I'll be honest, I'm not awfully familiar with the Phoenix Saga, but if you watch this, you can just tell that they screwed it up. I didn't really feel much of anything when Wolverine killed her. In fact, it felt kinda over the top and melodramatic to me. And considering that moment has come back later in the series, as this major character-defining moment for Wolverine, it kinda sucks that it wasn't handled better. Ultimately, X-Men The Last Stand is a really bad movie in my opinion. If you love it, fine. I just think, despite some pretty solid stuff, on the whole, it's boring and stupid and not fun to watch. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. So, here we are. X-Men Origins Wolverine. This movie could have been something. Wolverine's backstory had been teased in all these other films. It was this epic tale of pain and anger and all that stuff. And hell, this guy's been around since the early 1800s. He fought in pretty much every major war. You can make like 5 awesome Wolverine war movies if you wanted to. And they show that they know that in this film with the opening credits. And granted, those opening credits are pretty damn cool, not gonna lie. That's pretty much the only thing I enjoyed here, those opening 5 minutes or so. I mean, for the rest of this, some of the performances aren't terrible. I'm never not gonna like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Liev Schreiber isn't a bad choice for Sabretooth. Ryan Reynolds is pretty solid for the first few minutes. And that guy who plays Stryker isn't that bad. He really felt like a younger version of the guy from X2. And really, again, even if you didn't explore the most interesting parts of Wolverine's past, this movie could have been a slam dunk. I mean, just look at the characters you have in this. You've got a Wolverine movie featuring Deadpool, Gambit, Cyclops, Professor X, even Emma Frost and the Blob, if you want to get into the smaller roles. This could have been something interesting. So, what went wrong here? Firstly, all of the other performances. Everyone else in the film is either very forgettable or just plain bad. You've got Taylor Kitsch as Gambit, who isn't an awful choice for the character, but he's in the movie for 5 minutes. And he doesn't really do much. Then you've got all these other X-Men characters that aren't even like B-list X-Men characters. They're like D-list X-Men characters. And can I just ask, when putting together this movie, who was the guy who said, you know what this film's missing? Will.i.am. Now, I don't know a lot about Will.i.am. I don't really listen to his music. But what is he doing in this movie? I guess I also have to talk about Deadpool here. Everyone has complained about this, but the decision to do this with this character still really baffles me. If this film just had some other mutant that was the culmination of all these other mutant powers, it would have been kinda cliched, but whatever. But of all characters, why would you go with Deadpool? Why would they make this character who literally gets his mouth sewn shut Deadpool? It just makes no sense. I imagine what happened was they already had a script ready with this ultimate mutant bad guy for the end, and then just to get the fans excited and or to get Ryan Reynolds on board, they just decided that that would be Deadpool. Because besides the healing and I guess those black diamonds around his eyes, this is not remotely Deadpool. Like, at all. Anyway, let's move on. The writing and dialogue is terrible in this, and the movie on the whole is super over the top, melodramatic, nonsensical, and just very cheesy. Character motivations don't make sense, the reason for Wolverine's name is super drawn out and stupid. There are also some really awful and dumb one-liners in here, like,
Nobody kills you but me.
I'll compliment another Wolverine film later for having kinda dumb one-liners, but still pulling them off and having them be kinda badass. That's how you do it. Here, they're just awful. The movie's also not at all fun to watch for the vast majority of it. It's quite boring, in fact. It's a mess, it's horribly directed and edited, and a lot of the action and story beats here feel like they were ripped directly out of a video game. Which is ironic, because the video game based on this film is apparently actually really great. I also gotta talk about the action and visual effects, because even in a subpar, big-budget blockbuster, you can still get some cool action and visual effects. Here, however, they're horrendous. Most of the visual effects are surprisingly terrible. Like, CGI Patrick Stewart is even worse this time around, and Wolverine's claws, the most important visual effects in the film, look like garbage. Like, this film had a $150 million budget. How are these effects so bad? The action is also really bad. Not only is it hard to follow, but there are also no stakes. When Wolverine is on his own, he can't be hurt, so there are no stakes. When he's with the X-Men or other people, there are stakes, because they can die. But when they're just two completely invincible people throwing each other across a bar, who cares? And on that note, there's really no tension in this film at all. Like, great example, at the end, when that big thing might fall on Wolverine, and it's supposed to be all tense and suspenseful, it's not, because nothing would have happened if it had hit him. We just saw him jump down from up there. But thanks anyway, Gambit, for being really useful. In conclusion, X-Men Origins Wolverine is a horrible film. I wouldn't recommend anyone watch it unless you're a die-hard Wolverine fan, in which case you might get a shred of enjoyment out of it. However, if you want to watch Wolverine having his own solo adventure in an actual good film, just go watch The Wolverine. And this movie has none of the themes and depth of the other X-Men films. It's really just loud, obnoxious nonsense, and I'll give Origins Wolverine a 3 out of 10. So now we've come to the revival of the X-Men franchise. X-Men First Class is pretty amazing. All around, it's a super fun movie and an excellent restart for the series. At this point, the X-Men were a bit of a joke in the film industry, so to get it out of that slump, Fox hired an incredible director, an incredible cast, and an incredible composer, and bam, this film happened. So first off, let's go over those three things. Matthew Vaughn is one of my favorite directors, and for me, this is his second best film. I doubt anything will ever beat Kingsman for me. But yeah, his films are all super fun to watch, and this is no exception. Now, as far as the cast goes, this definitely rivals the original cast for me. James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender are perfectly cast as Charles and Eric. They play off each other super well, they're amazing. Side note, it's also super interesting to me to explore the more human sides of Professor X and Magneto. As far as Professor X, he was always kind of Dumbledore-ish to me in the originals, as in he was great, but I couldn't really relate to him, and I more looked up to him. Here, he's a real person, and Magneto is one of the most interesting characters in any superhero franchise, so seeing his backstory presented here is fascinating to me. The rest of the cast is also great. Nicholas Hoult, Jennifer Lawrence, Rose Byrne, Lucas Till, Kevin Bacon, who's pretty fantastic as the villain. Everyone all around does a great job. And then there's the soundtrack by Henry Jackman. Normally, when talking about movies, I don't really touch on music that much, but here, I gotta say, this is just an epic score all around. From the main theme, to Magneto's theme, to that sublift music, that scene is just phenomenal on the whole, by the way. It's an absolutely astounding soundtrack, one of the best and most memorable superhero soundtracks in recent memory. Most of the action and visual effects are really cool. Again, Matthew Vaughn is a great action director. Rebooting the X-Men series in this way is really interesting and creative, and the 60s setting is a lot of fun for this kind of film. On that note, the film is also a lot of fun to watch, and it's a really cool movie. I don't know, that might sound weird, it's hard to explain, but it's just a very cool movie. Like, there's so many awesome and badass moments. I don't know. But even past the really awesome moments, there are some sad moments and some really powerful moments. When Eric kills Shaw at the end with the coin and Charles feels it, and then afterwards, when Charles gets shot, that's some powerful stuff right there. There are some super epic moments, like the previously mentioned Sublift, and this has, no exaggeration, the best movie cameo of all time.
Excuse me, I'm Eric Lensher.
Charles Xavier.
Go f*** yourself.
As far as what I didn't like, there are a couple of pretty dumb moments, especially in regards to the plot and the villain's plan. There are also the occasional not-so-great visual effects, mostly green screen stuff. I've noticed all of Matthew Vaughn's films have that, actually. And Magneto's costume at the end looks kinda dumb to me, but that's really it. Besides that, this film is awesome, and I'll give X-Men First Class a 9.3 out of 10. So now we've come to the good Wolverine movie. The Wolverine is pretty solid. It's not perfect, but I still find it really enjoyable. When going into this film, you should know what it is. It's not the next Citizen Kane, it's not super groundbreaking in terms of plot and characters. It's a bit by the numbers at points, and it has an extremely predictable twist at the end. But if you want to see Wolverine kick ass and throw around one-liners for 2 hours, then this is your film. Also, Wolverine getting his own ass kicked for quite a bit of it, which I thought was one of the more interesting parts of the film. Again, when Wolverine is alone, there isn't that much tension, if any, because nothing can happen to him. So, the obvious next step to take for a solo film would be take away his invincibility. And having Wolverine dealing with being mortal for the first time, yeah, that's a cool premise. It's fun to see him beating up bad guys as just this invincible badass, but it'll get boring at a point if you don't spice it up. The cast is pretty good. Hugh Jackman is of course great, but I also really enjoyed Yukio. I also really liked the Japanese setting. I think that's an interesting place to set a Wolverine film. Most of the action is really cool. Some of it is a tad bit shaky, but most of it is solid, especially with the R-rated cut. This movie is pretty brutal. Also, again, Wolverine just spouting one-liners is undeniably just very cool to me.
Go f*** yourself, pretty boy.
The movie has a couple of funny scenes and moments, and that end credit scene is really awesome. Yes, they don't explain it at all. I guess the cure isn't permanent, and I guess Charles brought himself back to life in another body. Whatever, it's a cool reveal. Now, there are some things that I didn't like here. Jean Grey popping up in Wolverine's dreams all the time. I wasn't a big fan of that. I know I've used this word a lot, but it was kind of cheesy to me, and at a point towards the end, it got kind of annoying and unintentionally a little hilarious. The movie also slows down considerably in the middle. Like, there's a stretch of the film where not a lot happens. Also, while he looks cool, the Silver Samurai isn't much of a villain, and again, that twist was very predictable. So in the end, I really enjoy the Wolverine. It's not perfect, but if you just want to have a good time with a more violent than average superhero film, I think you should check this out. I'll give the Wolverine an 8 out of 10. So now we've come to one of my favorite superhero movies, and just blockbusters in general, X-Men Days of Future Past. This is exactly what a summer blockbuster should be like. Exciting, fast-paced, with likable characters, an interesting story, and overall, just so much fun to watch. I love First Class. I love the first two X-Men films. If you fuse them together, you get Days of Future Past. It's a perfect mix of these worlds, it's a perfect way to kind of reboot this series, and honestly, it's pretty much a perfect film for me. I won't talk about this movie for too long, because I know me just non-stop spewing compliments can get old, but this is just such an incredible superhero movie. It even made me cry, which is something I can say for like 2 other superhero films. That scene where Magneto is giving the speech and you can see all the X-Men in the future being slaughtered. Some people call it over the top and corny. Personally, it really moved me. Seeing the character of Charles evolve through these films is really cool. Like at the end of First Class, if they'd wanted to end it there, yeah, I could see that guy turning into Patrick Stewart. But seeing him here, even more vulnerable than before, is a really interesting direction to take his character. Hugh Jackman and Michael Fassbender are still fantastic. The action is the best of any X-Men film in my opinion, and we get that Quicksilver scene. The 70s setting is really fun. It does a good job of mixing some dark ideas with some lighter comic booky ones. It's got some awesome mind-blowing moments. It also has a really nice wrap-up where we see Wolverine back in the future with Scott and Jean. Great way to end it. It's overall a perfect summer movie. So, for what this is, I'm gonna give X-Men Days of Future Past a 10 out of 10. So look, I've already reviewed Deadpool and X-Men Apocalypse, so you can check out those videos by clicking here or the links down below. Oh wait, just kidding. While I was writing this video, Fox took down my X-Men Apocalypse review. So, because of that, I guess I'll give my brief thoughts on X-Men Apocalypse. It's a super fun, yet flawed movie. I can now kind of understand why a lot of people hate it, but personally, I loved it. I just had such an undeniably fun time with it. The characters and performances are great, specifically Michael Fassbender again, and I seem to be the only person on the planet who thought Oscar Isaac played a pretty cool villain in Apocalypse. It does have a bit of an inconsistent tone, and it is unevenly paced, but I can't say I didn't have a blast watching it. Overall, I'd give X-Men Apocalypse a 9.3 out of 10. Super enjoyable, but also not perfect. So those were my thoughts on the X-Men films. Which is your favorite and least favorite? Or rank them from best to worst in the comments below. While you're at it, be sure to like this video, check out my Instagram at BHL_Hudson, check out my Twitter at BHL_Hudson, and subscribe for more videos like the one you just watched. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.